What up, beard hooligans?
Let's get into another sick video. Not a deck profile. Well, it actually is a deck profile, but it's not the one you've become accustomed to. In today's video, I want to switch things up a little bit. So the problem is with the ban list not changing anything in the game, like other than Necros, Altergeist, and Ritual Beasts. Really, there's no like updating any of the decks, right? There's a few decks I'm working on, but that requires like, you know, a couple weeks of testing, buying cards, and then getting everything ready. So I'm switching it up a little bit today, and I hope you guys are ready because I'm gonna bring something like anime decks, right? So I looked through Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikipedia, watching the show and different things. I want to make this kind of segment. It doesn't have to be anything too big, but just like, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime decks, character decks, and I'll be doing some duels with a couple people, just kind of in live duels of anime decks. So I feel like that should really appeal to some of the more casual people out there, me being one of them. So like, I'm bringing you guys this. Hope you guys like it. Let me know what you think. The qualifications are effect monsters are all basically at 2. They had to have ran it in the show, or Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikia has to say it. Other than if Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikia says they used it at 3, then you can use it at 3. Normal monsters are at 3. Spells are all at 1. Traps are all at 1. And then one spell or one trap per deck can be at 2. That's kind of like their most iconic card. So i.e. Joey's would be like Scapegoat, Yugi's would be Mirror Force. So let's get into this. I'm super hyped to bring to you guys Yugi Muto deck, or Yami Yugi, or whatever you want to call him. Let's get into it.
Alright homies, let's freaking do this. We got a sick deck profile. It's an anime deck profile, which is kind of a nice little change of pace. You know, I'll call this anime. We'll come up with the name by the time I post this video. But so far, if you're trying to run Yugi deck, you run 1 Slifer or Osiris the God Dragon. Osiris the Sky Dragon, or Slifer the Executive Producer, whichever name you want to use. So this is the only God card I run. I find that the God cards are like kind of booty. You know, when you get them out, they could actually be like a whole entire win condition in themselves, because with these old cards, this is basically like you're playing like a weird version of GOAT format with you know, Egyptian God cards thrown in. And as funny as it is to say, if we look at like old formats, these cards would actually have been really strong in old formats. Now they're power creep to all hell and they have no protection and stuff like that. But it's really hard to actually out this with a monster. You have to use a spell or trap to destroy this. And if that character that you're using their deck, like if they haven't used any kind of spell removal, stuff like that, it's really hard to out like a Slifer the Sky Dragon. Because of his second mouth ability, you can, you know, just lower your opponent's or your opponent's like attack, whatever, and it permanently lowers it. It's not like in the show. Like this just lowers it permanently, which is phenomenal. That permanent loss is huge because it makes any monster that your opponent summons essentially weaker than Slifer the Sky Dragon. Any normal summon, basically your normal summons are all like 16, 17, 18, 1900. He blows them up automatically because 2000 is just taken away. And that's so strong in these like anime old formats. This is the only God card I run though, is because it's the most iconic one associated with Yugi. He used it the most, and I didn't want to bog it down with Egyptian God cards because like I feel like this is a nice like trump card. If you draw it, you draw it. If not, you know, you're good. But if you had too many God cards, you could end up having the hands where you draw like 2-3 God cards, and it's terrible. So 1 Slifer the Sky Dragon. You run 1 Dark Magician because, you know, he's the big boy. You don't want to run too many high level monsters because there's not a real easy way to special summon a crap ton of monsters in this deck. But there is a good amount of ways to get into Dark Magician, like Dark Magic Curtain and different cards, which we'll get into. But just 1, because you're trying to minimize your high leveled monsters. You're trying to control the game with your spells and traps until you can, you know, get enough tributes to go off, right? And then you got Palladium Oracle Mahad. There's a lot of one-ofs in these old school decks because, like, you know, these old anime style decks, because you're just trying to run like decent cards to just outgrind your opponent. I run Oracle Mahad, even though he's a really relatively new card. He was used by Yugi in the movie, and I let any card used in the show, any card used in the movie, and even in the manga, I considered, right? The only card that I dropped that I could have put in was Gore's, the Emissary of Darkness, because I felt he was too powerful. If you have Gore's, that anime deck is just too strong. Because like, you know, Kaiba's deck, you have like Vorse Raider normal summons. If you have Gore's, your opponent, you're giving your like you get 2 monsters for the price of 1 attack. But Palladium Oracle Mahad I found good because with Pot of Greed, Graceful Charity, and different cards, you can draw into him relatively easily. He's a really sick top deck. It gives you that anime feeling where you're like, you know, like you draw this card and you're like, yeah, dude, I got Palladium Oracle Mahad. And it's just like the movie where you blow up, you know, dudes. Plus, the fact that he is strong against dark monsters is really, really powerful also. Floating into Dark Magician is really cool. Old school cards don't float. So you run 1 of him. You run 1 Dark Magician girl. She's such a fan favorite. She's iconic. You have to run her, I feel like. I didn't want to run any more tributes after this. This is the last tribute monster. So you run 4 total. She's solid, right? You'll get Dark Magician in the grave. She can be 2300. And it just, I felt that I couldn't cut her because of her, you know, iconicness. That's essentially the only reason you run her. And then, so the rule is you can only run two of effect monsters. Vanillas are unlimited, but Marsh Macron, as Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikipedia stated, was at 3 in Yugi's deck because he used it in the movie to summon 2 more. And this is a great way to get fodder for Slifer without having to neg yourself a lot, so his attack is really wimpy. And it's just good fodder for anything. All your tributes can be summoned with Marsh Macron because it's hard. Your opponent really relies usually on like just a normal summon. When I've been testing these anime decks, you basically, you know, your normal summon, set a few cards, and beat over your opponent. It's like honestly like a worse GOAT format, since GOAT format has a lot of high impact cards like you know, Nobleman of Crossout, Magician of Faith, and those cards. I felt that, you know, this is just like a skewed, slight, different version of GOAT format. Like this is almost like an anime format. But don't want to get too sidetracked. Marsh Macron is at 3 of because it keeps floating into itself, and compared to these old school cards, it's very, very strong. But like I said, movies were fair game, so I definitely let like movies be part of the deck. You run 2 tricky. So now this is the rule. You know, 2 effect monsters. Each effect monster is a 2. You can't do any more. You run 2 tricky because this card's great. You can discard anything that's bogging down your hand for like a monster reborn, and you get a tricky on the field for free. It's a 2000 beater. It can get over almost anything. It's just a very strong card overall. And then you run 2 breaker because, in all honesty, this card is insane strong. You know, like whatever we would have put this at, this card would definitely be like if I made the rule like, hey, make it to 3. The only reason I didn't make like, hey, you can do 3 ofs is because I felt that in the anime, the thing I saw was a lot of times, you know, decks were very inconsistent. Like one time they're playing with Chimera, the Mythical Beast. One time they're playing Dark Magician. Next duel, no Dark Magician. You know, so like you wouldn't have that if you ran 3 ofs. So I felt that 2 ofs were perfect, right? So Breaker the Magic Warrior is a 2 of because he's phenomenal and he can get rid of opponent's back row and all this stuff. It's really strong. I run 2 Skill Dark Magician. In the anime, Skill Dark Magician was a 2 of in Yugi's deck. It says it on Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikipedia, and it's a really easy way to turbo into your boss monster without having to tribute. Plus, you have a lot of spells. Your opponent has spells. They're your power cards, so this is really easy to go off. Marshmallon's at 2. This card's very strong because you're trying to get tribute fodder for Dark Magician, Slifer, and this card can't be destroyed by battle, so your opponent has to do something like use a really powerful trap to remove it or a spell card. So I love having Marshmallon on the field. It protects me. Doesn't matter how strong your beater is because it can't be destroyed by battle. And then we get to the 1-ofs. Just like standard fan service cards, like Big Shield Gardner needs to be ran because he ran it and it was really, you know, he almost summoned it every freaking duel after Duelist Kingdom. Electromagnetic Turtle, it's a great discard card, and you can set it. If it gets destroyed, it's 1800, so it's not really easy to destroy. If it gets sent to the graveyard, you can protect your tribute fodder next turn and then be able to really go into your god card. Or if you summon Slifer and this is in your grave, you can protect him. It's really strong. Obnoxious Celtic Guardian. Like I'll show you guys in my Kaiba deck when I put that up. A lot of monsters in his deck are 1900 or more, and he's basically becomes like a 3rd Marshmallon. It's really strong. And then 1 Legion, the Fiend Jester. This card's the only like iffy card. Yugi technically didn't summon this card, but he did use it. He stole Arcanas and tributed it. And I know that's like a little iffy if, oh, should I put this in a Yugi deck or not, like a dedicated anime like pure build. But I did because he works so well with Dark Magician, and Yugi has been known to, like, for example, he didn't have Dark Renewal before Arcana battle, and I'm assuming that, like, after Arcana's duel, he picked up a few cards from, like, that kind of strategy. So I think Legion the Fiend Jester is definitely something Yugi would have ran, and it's not, like, crazy overpowered, like a Dark Magic Circle or something, where putting it in would just skew everything, right? So, Legion the Fiend Jester, I was like, you know what? I think this is a good card, especially because then it like helps you search Dark Magician and makes Yugi only ran the one Dark Magician. It makes that one Dark Magician appear more, and kind of like in the show, you see Dark Magician more often, even though he only runs it one up. So just felt that it was the correct thing to do for a Yugi dedicated build. My God, I cannot pick up cards to save my life. They're too slippery, these sleeves. And then we get their spell cards. You run one Eye of Timaeus. These are all one-ofs, right? So let's just put it right here in the corner. One Eye of Timaeus. This is self-explanatory. You get to summon cool cards from your extra deck. You run one Soul Taker. So he used this card. It had a different effect in the anime, but technically Yugi did use this, so it's part of his arsenal. You can just destroy any monster on the field for 1,000 life points. That's very strong. It's like an overpowered like Fisher. One Graceful Charity. This card's phenomenal. You need to run it. This is like GOAT format staple, you know. Pot of Greed. He used all these cards. You need consistency cards. Change of Heart. He used it in the duel against Kaiba in the Battle City finals. Brain Control. He used it like 1,000,000 times. Monster Reborn. Pretty much every deck in the entire anime used this card. Dark Magic Curtain. He used it. I don't know exactly when, but I know he did use it. It says on Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikia. One Heavy Storm. It's a lot of these anime kind of decks, they run a lot of back row, so it's nice to just be able to remove stuff and not have your Life with the Sky Dragon die. Swords Revealing the Light, very popular, very famous Yugi card. Mage Power, powers up your guy, very useful. Magical Dimension, he used it, I think it was in the Waking the Dragons arc, very strong card. And last spell is Mystical Space Typhoon, which was just more back row removal, and he used it, I think, a few times actually in the anime. So that's all for the spells, and these are the most powerful spells Yugi ever used. So I felt like all of them like required an in. The only card I had to really cut and think about was Card Destruction, but I didn't feel that it was good because it's like a -1, and like, yeah, you could mess up your opponent, but then you could also unbrick them. So I really liked the spell lineup that I have in here. And then per the rules, you can have one spell or trap be at 2. So I picked Mirror Force, Yugi's most iconic trap card. He used it mostly in Duelist Kingdom a lot, but he did have it in Battle City I think a few times, and throughout the whole show. I mean, it's probably, if I had to boil it down, he probably used this trap card more than any other trap or spell other than Monster Reborn or Pot of Greed, because they had to use that in every duel because of consistency or bringing back a monster. So Mirror Force, very iconic, definitely a Yugi type staple. Magical Cylinder. Card's actually really crazy because like it saves your monster from destruction, like it keeps tribute fodder on the field, and it returns fire to your opponent, which is really strong. Spellbinding Circle. This card's kind of shit, but he used it, so I was like, you know, F it, like throw it in. It'll help stop an opponent's monster from doing anything. And if they summon a big monster like a Blue Eyes White Dragon, because like mainly I've been testing against my wife. You do like Kaiba versus Yugi. Spellbinding Circle can stop like pretty much any card in the opponent's deck. Like if they summon a Blue Eyes, that Blue Eyes is useless until they can get rid of this. One Dark Renewal. It was very popular later on with Yugi. He was able to summon Dark Magician. This helps you have that Dark Magician appear more often, and you have enough spellcasters to be able to tribute it. Plus it interrupts your opponent, which is strong. One Dimensional Guardian. He used it in the movie. A lot of these movie cards are very strong, but he used them in the movie and it's fair game. Soul Rope, just be able to summon any level 4 monster from your deck. You're able to get like a Legion the Fiend Jester or Skill Dark Magician or whichever. It's really, really good card. And then one Dust Tornado to round it out. So these are all cards Yugi used. I found these are the most powerful cards he ever used, and he might not have had all of these at the same time in the anime. But that's not the point. The point of this is to have the best cards he ever used in one deck, and that's kind of like his deck. Because you're trying to play against your friends, you don't want to like have an inconsistent brick fest and run like Giant Soldier of Stone. And then there's only 3 extra deck monsters because I have Timaeus will get you these 3, and you run Amulet Dragon because he used it, Dark Magician, the Girl, the Dragon Knight because he used it, and Dark Paladin because he used it. Now I know there's no Buster Blader, but I have Timaeus can summon this, so it felt worth including. He used it, not in that way, but it doesn't matter. So that's it for Yugi's anime deck. I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope you guys like this kind of style. It's a little bit different. I know it's not like, oh man, everyone plays this kind of way and stuff like that, but this is for the ultra casuals out there. You guys are finally well represented. Welcome to the channel. I hope you guys like this. So if you like this, give me some support because I'll know to keep doing it. Like the video, comment, subscribe, as always. And mad love to all you guys. I love all the support you guys give me, the comment. Everything has been so phenomenal. I can't be happier. And if you guys want to see the next one, which is Seto Kaiba, leave it in the comments. And if any different anime deck you want to see, like I have plans to make like Jaden, a Jaden deck. Basically, I'm planning to go to GX, 5Ds, everything, and then just have like a cross duel of like from every single format, like not format, but like every show, like have Yusei duel Yugi in real life, you know. So I'll use like Yugi's deck, my opponent will use Yusei's, and we'll just see like who wins, and then I think that'll be really, really cool. So if you guys like this, if you guys enjoyed this, give me some love down there, and as always, man, love you guys. Peace out.